So AJ's obviously focused in the downtown area. The downtown area, like a lot of other downtowns across the country, is experiencing, I don't know if a renaissance is the right word, but definitely a revitalization as more folks are coming back in town, both to live as well as to work. So just kind of, maybe you can talk a little bit about how you think of that, what's been happening downtown within the context of the film.
I thought you were going to ask me for a Super Bowl prediction. Is that later? Is that later? Okay. So yes, I would agree with Tim. I think the film touched on a lot of thematic things that have application to almost any American city in terms of the overall themes, and even up to today, where you see that issues of gentrification and new ideas coming in. And I think it's so true. I think there was a couple of that first slide of the cartoon of showing all the neighborhoods of LA just lined up and showing all the different. And Atlanta is no different. I mean, you'd have the same thing. And people's perceptions of downtown Atlanta are, I would say, in line with some of the things, some of the negativism of Boyle Heights or any in-town neighborhood. But they're changing. And they're changing really because of the wave of a new generation who's discovering urban America. And that generation is educating their parents and their grandchildren that, hey, it's actually okay to live in urban America. And some of those people are creeping back into this. And we see this in downtown, and we see this in along the Peachtree corridor. And we're actually seeing it even south of downtown. And I think if we're in a kind of a new era, and a lot of what we do is trying to figure out how do you reconnect these neighborhoods to what they once were, and that's one of the early parts of the movie. And we're working on that hard in Atlanta, really hard. And connectedness isn't necessarily just about a road. It can be sidewalk repair. It can be a streetcar. It can be bicycles. And Atlanta suffers greatly from those of us in the urban core suffer greatly from the highway going right through the middle of town. Now, there's a lot of good about that occurs, but there's also a lot that we're working hard to try to repair.
Can you tell us a little about the West Side neighborhood and what thoughts and plans there may be in place for that?
Well, what we're focused on is neighborhood transformation of place and people, and for us, it's a real emphasis on people. And so, when you talk to folks from the neighborhood, again, like folks who were up on the screen who live there, what they're looking for are these very basic things, because the neighborhoods in the near West Side, in terms of English Avenue and Vine City and the adjacent neighborhoods, really are struggling, with concentrated poverty and all that means. And so when you talk to folks, they're looking at very basic things like, I want to feel safe walking down the street because right now they don't. I want to feel good about the school that my kids attend because right now they don't. And I want to have access to a job that allows me to take care of myself and my family, because in many instances they don't. And so we're focused on the human side of it, those basic things. How do we connect people to opportunity? How do we get them to a place where they have the tools so they can take advantage of opportunity? And lastly, and importantly from our perspective, is what can we help do to help rebuild this sense of possibility and hope, which and for many folks is gone. Not everybody, but for a lot of folks is. And to us, that's a key focus on the people side. On the place side, I'm going to turn over to Tim because we're partnering as well as others with the city on a big land use planning effort.
Well, I'll say a couple things about this. The one is that, and this relates to the movie again, that I think it's dangerous to think of a neighborhood as frozen in place at any particular time. This movie really wonderfully chronicled how Boyle Heights changed over the period of 100 years, essentially, a little less than 100 years. And that's the way neighborhoods are. They're constantly changing. We can't look at a place and say, okay, that's what it's going to be forever. in the case of the west side of Atlanta, Vine City, English Avenue, all these neighborhoods in that area, they were once much more greatly populated than they are today. And yet we have the people that are living there today. And the first thing that we're going to be working on is how to, and people leave neighborhoods for all different kinds of reasons. It's their own personal decision as to where to live and that kind of thing. And that will always be the case. But we need to put together a way in which people that now live on the west side can ensure that there will be nothing about what we do that requires them to leave. This issue of through government action or private action, that people are displaced and they do not want to be displaced, that is a solvable problem. And that is step number one. Step number two is to find ways to attract more people to live there. An area that was much more populated before has the potential for great density of living and doing business with great infrastructure in a way. And so that's the second step, is to find, and we know ways where we can attract more people, more businesses to be on the west side once we've dealt with the people that are there and ensured them that nothing about what we will do will require them to leave. Those are the two things I'd mention. One other thing to mention, though, that relates to the movie, and AJ was touching on it, is the issue of kind of the public realm. As I watch that, and I think about Atlanta and many American cities or parts of American cities, and you consider how much damage we've done to the public realm in terms of its ability to support a community, to me, it's the kind of thing, and this relates to the west side, but it relates to many neighborhoods in Atlanta, where we have to take every single step, little ones, tiny little ones, and big ones, to repair the things that connect our neighborhoods, as AJ talked about, the public realm, the places that we share. And when neighborhoods are healthy, that they have a public realm that supports diversity and an evolution of the neighborhood that, regardless of where it's going, it can support lots of different kinds of people.